Fossil fuels dominated the world and the history for the last 100 years. It's time for a new clean energy transition. Is hydrogen the it factor that we're looking for? Let's find out. Clean hydrogen is touted to be the game changer of the future. It gives a promise of delivering good, paying, clean energy jobs and realizing a net zero economy by 2050, and that's what we need for the Vision 2040 that we're living through right now. What is in it for Oman, and how will our spending power save the planet? This is The Hydrogen Story, where we talk about the biggest energy transition in history. This episode is in support of the Green Hydrogen Summit, which is on December the 5th to the 7th, 2022 at the OCCI. My guest today is Mr. Essam Sheibany, the VP of Sustainability in ASYAD. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation.
Good. Let's get straight into the questions. The hydrogen economy has become the energy and the world's favorite buzzword. But what exactly is hydrogen? What exactly is this economy is going to bring in? And why are we focusing on hydrogen?
So hydrogen is mainly one of the new fuel actually arrives in the market where it can subsidize the current fossil fuel. It's safer, it's more energy intense and less harmonizing for the environment. Environment means that it doesn't emit same CO2 normal fossil fuel. That's why it becomes more attractive, more doable to do. And that's why becoming the next fuel we use. Why is it the buzzword or the most likely attractive for the businesses? Mainly because it's the production of it, the availability, because everyone around the world can create or develop their own hydrogen because it's coming from separation of water, and that's why become easy accessible comparing to fossil fuel, where only a few countries which is blessed by that having the fossil fuel in their countries. Okay, fuel. Please explain hydrogen as a fuel to us. Hydrogen as a fuel is an energy carrier. So whenever it's been released in an engine or in a fossil fuel, it gives you that energy that can move. It's not high intensity, same as the fossil fuel. It's less intensive. However, businesses or mobility, for example, they compensate that one by having a bigger sizes for shipping. Exactly, they give bigger size of vehicles. In the vehicles, it gives you more mileage, less emissions, so that bit compensated differently than the fossil fuel. So it's towards the green solution and helping the climate and helping Earth and everything. Absolutely. Like that. Okay, what countries are blessed? You mentioned early on countries are blessed with being able to produce hydrogen. What countries are there in the world, and is Oman part of them? The key source of hydrogen production is wind and solar, and any country who have enough of hydrogen, wind and solar, they're becoming very attractive, particularly when they will be able to produce around-the-clock hydrogen. What that means, if in the daytime we're using solar to make the hydrogen production, and then at night you use the wind to continue making that hydrogen production, that lower your cost as low as possible, where not many countries around the world have both wind and solar. And Oman actually is blessed by having wind and solar in some particular areas in Oman where they can produce hydrogen around the clock, where they bring the cost as low as possible. What's Oman's competition in this level? Countries-wise, you compare to Namibia, compare to Chile, some part of Chile, some part of Morocco, and all these are competing with Oman in terms of that wind and solar. What's the edge? What can give us the edge over these competition? The edge is we can lower the cost of hydrogen production at below $2, and that's the competition, that's the challenge. I'll come back on that $2 thing. You mentioned fuel abundance with hydrogen, feasibility. Why wasn't it used a very long time ago? Why are we coming into it now? Actually, hydrogen was in the business for a long time ago, but it's used mainly with NASA for the aircraft going to space. They use it because it's a cleaner fuel, and the amount of fuel they needed is very huge. So they needed a cleaner fuel that can be burned, but again, it's a cleaner, will not pollute the environment, particularly talking about cleaner space. So hydrogen was there for NASA to be used in the past. But it was very expensive at that time. Now the cost of hydrogen fossil fuel or hydrogen fuel cells becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and then will go cheaper even in 2030. And that will becoming attractive for businesses and smaller businesses or businesses like can do a mobility to adopt the technology and can use it. Even the refineries around the world have been producing hydrogen as for their operation for many years, and then they never thought that it can be used as a fuel, but where some of them are used as a fuel to burn it, but again with a control mechanism. However, now it's becoming very attractive because of the cost of use and becoming a very attractive replacement for fossil fuel.
What makes hydrogen expensive? In this conversation you were talking about, is it you were saying you use some certain words, but what is it that makes hydrogen expensive right now?
Is the production, is the separation of water from H2O, the hydrogen and the oxygen, the separation, the electrolysis development. Those machines are designed in a different technology and they don't have the high efficiency, which makes it very expensive. And that there is a lot of R&D, how to increase the efficiency, how to lower the cost. With that development, they will be able to reduce the hydrogen cost in the future.
So with its expensiveness, that means scalability is the issue. Is that another problem that hydrogen is facing?
Yes, scalability, when you want to produce massive production, you need a 24 hours production as well. Not many countries or not many businesses have that energy saving where you can use for hydrogen production. Now people talking combining more than one renewable energy that can be compensate the darkness of the night, for example, by using oil water reservoir, for example, or by using hydro mix, any power to X, where they always says any power that converts to energy, that will become more attractive, and that increase the production of hydrogen and lower the cost as well.
I got so into what you were saying that I actually lost track because I have so many questions in mind. You said $2 per. What is the cost right now to get the hydrogen?
Well, now the cost, there is not a green hydrogen available. There's few countries around the world actually, or companies around the world who are selling you green hydrogen. The available now is a blue hydrogen, and that also costs competitive, between $5. But the hydrogen, the green, different type of hydrogen, stand between $4 to $6. That only production, and then you add up more few dollars on top of that for conversion to different ammonia or methanol, and then you're adding more dollars for transporting it.
Okay, you went too scientific. Can we put an example next to it? Oil, let's say in Saudi Arabia, is $4 per barrel to get out. I'm not sure what it is over here. I'm sure people are going to look at the same way with the hydrogen. To extract until it is about to get out. What is the cost right now?
Well, there is no standard. That's why they use a terminology called levelized cost of hydrogen production.
Okay.
And that where we say is you need to start from somewhere, you put a dollar value for it, and then with the development of technology where you see the cost of hydrogen becoming more economical. And that's why we say there is no one factor. But there is a little additionality where you pay for money, additional money for storage. If you produce a bigger quantity, you still pay money for conversion, either ammonia or methanol or liquid organic carrier. So whatever methodology you use, then you pay additional money for shipping and terminal operation.
All these extra costs.
Extra costs.
Yes.
And then at the end, you also pay money at the receiving port where you convert it back to hydrogen and then you do it.
So we can see how it's expensive actually. What do we want it to be at right now?
So the best way you can do it, the lower cost of production can be, the more we add value chain throughout the businesses.
Yes.
And then we say
a clever way.
That way. And actually, most of the contracts or the trading of hydrogen is not like trading of fossil fuel or gas or oil, where you see a fluctuation price coming up and down. It's like one contract lasts for 20 years. And then 20 years is a fixed price.
Yes.
When you fix the price for you, you cannot change it. You don't expect the traders to change for you. So you will not see is like a neck to oil and gas where you see prices up and down or scalability turns down, because All the traders, all the importers of hydrogen, they need a sustainable source of hydrogen that can sustain their businesses and operations.
Okay, I can see in the future with humans being resilient that they'll be able to create hydrogen at home and be creating their own energy that will consistently be as free as possible or as efficient as possible. This might cause a problem with the establishment and the monopolies, so I don't see how the freedom of using hydrogen can come in. It's just in the past, there was a scare about hydrogen. There was the Hindenburg, and it straight away burnt. So how do we know that hydrogen is not dangerous to us?
Well, actually, there's a lot of study. Like fossil fuel, in the beginning, when we use a fossil fuel, when the LNG came in the picture, everyone says LNG gas was dangerous.
Okay.
To stop it there. But there's a lot of research, a lot of technology, a lot of development in the LNG sector have developed where they ease up a little bit more on the safety of it. And the same thing with the hydrogen.
Okay. So it's just how human nature works in history, and we will be able to adapt and clean it up. Okay, last question for this section. You mentioned colors of hydrogen. You mentioned green and blue. What are these colors?
This is colors depends on how you produce hydrogen. It's mainly hydrogen itself have no color by itself, but the colors define the way the hydrogen produced. So the blue hydrogen produced from fossil fuel and capturing the CO2, while green hydrogen is mainly pure produced from renewable energy, and that's why I call it green.
So there's two colors?
There is a purple or pink, used from renewable, from radiation,
so there's a whole
from
rainbow
nuclear.
spectrum.
Yes, exactly.
Right. On that note and the spectrum, please stay with us, and we'll come back right after this break.
We play, you listen.
You talk, we listen.
You got something to say? We want to hear it.
95.4 in Muscat.
And 91 in Salalah.
Music, news, views, and everything in between.
TFM.
TFM.
Let's talk.
Welcome back to the Hydrogen Story. This episode is in support of the Green Hydrogen Summit, which is on December the 5th and 7th, 2022 at the OCCI. With me is the VP of Sustainability in ASYAD, Mr. Essam Sheibany. Welcome, and thank you for your previous questions and answers, which were brilliant. We are moving on to more questions. How much energy can we get from hydrogen right now compared to fossil fuels?
Well, let me give you an example. That's to exemplify the value. You need 1 kilogram of hydrogen can gives you 100 kilometers in a normal car. So, and then you will need 7 kilograms in a vehicles of hydrogen that can take you 700 kilometers, and that gives you more length of that.
Yeah.
So that's the school of thought. That's actually one of the calculations done.
It's a nice comparison that we can see how far the cars goes, because people know with fuel where it is that they can go.
Now, the challenge there that the hydrogen storage, it have to be at high pressure bar. You're talking about 350, and sometimes you go even 700. So the example I gave you, it's 350 bars. So it's mean very condensed. So you need a very well-designed fuel tank, or they can store hydrogen.
Yeah, and protect people from the high pressure if it does decide to subside or explode or anything.
The methodology that currently used for, say, storing tanks, storing hydrogen, is more advanced comparing 20, 30 years ago. And that's why they are much confident that they can store hydrogen in type 4 vessels or type 4 cylinders.
What is this type 4?
It's a combination between a fiber and stainless steel, where you combine together.
So the technology is towards that. Which is better, electrical or hydrogen?
Actually, there is much better on both of them. There is, they call it FCEV, fuel cell electrical vehicles, where you use both technology.
Okay.
So that gives you more.
So it's like my hybrid car using oil and petrol and electricity.
Correct.
In this case, it's hydrogen and electricity.
Correct.
Do they exist?
Yes, they are. Car manufacturer actually making that because they gives you more durability, becoming more cost effective, and then store a smaller quantity of hydrogen that can give the energy that can drive you more.
Since I think 2015, I've been slowly getting snippets of hydrogen, specifically in Germany. How are countries adopting this hydrogen technology, and where have countries reached so far that have impressed you?
Well, I think you're talking about the European Union, where they are moving forward for replacing the current fossil fuel with the hydrogen. So they have strategies and policies and everything that drive this energy transition towards hydrogen. Maybe Germany is leading, is one of the leading companies who are actually driving this movement, but there are actually other countries where already in practice they're using hydrogen boats, for example, tugboats, and many, including vehicles or heavy vehicles, you can say, not commercialized or small vehicles, but the mainly heavy-duty vehicles like trucks and heavy trucks.
I did read that hydrogen will be used on the heavy-duty stuff compared to battery cells and electricity used for the light vehicles. Why?
Because it's more cost-effective and particularly where you have storage tanks. Then you need these heavy trucks travel for longer distance. The electrical will be difficult for it to get charged. However, the hydrogen will be able to charge the battery while it's moving on. So it's give you a longer distance, and then you don't need to charge it. Just fill up with hydrogen and just move on without charging.
So with this charging, and if we're talking vehicles, that means you need filling stations. You need to be able to have support for it in places that go by. Will it just be a matter of changing the oil and the petrol to hydrogen, or is it opening up new filling stations and new styles and new technologies?
Well, the trend we see that they require special hydrogen station, where because it's a safety if it is at a higher pressure, higher bar, so it's not like normal filling station where you do. So the safety is becoming given more attention in the hydrogen filling station. However, it takes 5 minutes to fill in. It's like a normal vehicle.
Okay.
It doesn't make you need a long time, or charging it with electrical takes a while. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back to Germany and Europe, setting up the regulations. Are they the trailblazers and pioneers of creating regulations for hydrogen that the rest of the world can copy, adapt, and slightly change and tweak for their countries? Or is every country going to have their own hydrogen regulations? And is it that susceptible and volatile?
Correct. First of all, we're coming back on the colors of hydrogen. I think the world need to unify on what type of hydrogen is good for the environment that can be used. I think most of the world have agreed that the green hydrogen is the one that we need to stick on. It is particularly
they call it green because
it's produced from renewable energy.
That means there is no carbon dioxide or anything.
No any carbon capture, no whatever it is.
And blue is just one level less.
Blue is mainly produced from fossil fuel, however, with carbon capture. Okay. And there is a grey, which is without carbon capture.
And you use the new word there, carbon capture, which we'll come to in later episodes for sure. Yeah, so you're saying about the colors. Yeah,
so mainly whatever colors, I think the hydrogen. However, in order to certify this, so they established another side business where certifying the hydrogen produced. So for every kilograms of hydrogen, there is a certification, or for every hydrogen produced, there is a certification how exactly this hydrogen be produced, so they can sell it or be traded in the European Union. However, because of European Union, they focus not only the production of the hydrogen, but also the decarbonizing of the world, where they need to have it from a reliable or renewable source out of it. While you see other countries where they don't put much restriction, for example, Asian countries, Japan, they have a hydrogen produced from coal gasification, which is
black hydrogen.
Grey
hydrogen.
It's a mainly black hydrogen or whatever the color is, but again,
just so the audience can start understanding. The more it's mixed with fossil fuel, the darker the color is.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the hydrogen produced from coal gasification still can be used as a hydrogen, but again, the certification for that cannot be utilized the same as European.
Please explain certification. This certification is very important towards the regulation.
If you want the dollar price, because the hydrogen has a dollar value, so if it is greener, because it's the production of it is very troublesome and require technology and everything, that's why the cost and safer for environment. While other hydrogen is readily available, like the blue hydrogen is readily available now, we can get it from any refineries with a bigger quantity or the quantity one. Is available, and it's cheaper comparing to the green energy, where it's require renewable energy produced for extended 24 hours development. So that add complexity to the production rather than easier production.
Where is this blue hydrogen used if it's available in abundance right now?
Mainly is used in the refineries as a part of it. However, some of the businesses still use hydrogen for their desulfurization businesses within the refineries.
Okay, so hydrogen is used because Why? This is they move towards decarbonization to help out, or is it because they found it was somehow cheaper and more efficient to use?
No, actually, hydrogen is becoming an energy vector. We can give you energy, but without affecting the environment. That's one.
Vector. What's that word?
Vectors mean the energy carriers carry the energy and gives you energy in terms of you and the operation you're doing.
Speaking of the word carrier, I read that will hydrogen become the bulk energy carrier of the future or the fuel of the future? What is the difference?
Well, the fuel of the future, hydrogen, you can mix it with any other substance, like for example, nitrogen can make you ammonia, or if you mix it with CO2, it can make you methanol.
Hello, chemistry students in the periodic table. Can you say that again?
If you mix it hydrogen with nitrogen, it gives you ammonia, and then classified as a green ammonia if it's made it also green. If you mix it with the CO2, then it gives you methanol, and the methanol also can be classified as green if the CO2 also make it from biomass as well.
Okay. In all of this, you mentioned earlier carbon capture. So if carbon's not released, then it's green hydrogen. If carbon is released, what is carbon capture?
Carbon capture is whatever if the hydrogen is produced through fossil fuel, the long chain of hydrocarbon, then you break the chain, you will get the CO2 out of that. You need to capture that CO2 in some way or somehow, a different technology, even in the cylinders, or some people actually put it in a cylinders where they release it in the oil reservoir or all the oil mining. Once you capture that, then you qualify as a blue hydrogen. If you don't capture that, your hydrogen will qualify for a gray hydrogen.
Okay, so this carbon capture is definitely a topic that we're going to talk about in the future. What sectors, we've mentioned heavy duty cars, you mentioned boats and ships. What other sectors does hydrogen impact, and will it impact, and how can SMEs and entrepreneurs get into this economy?
One of the key sectors which is we're going to have hydrogen use or benefit from hydrogen is the steel manufacturing. Steel manufacturing is heavy intense, where you burn fossil fuel, natural gas, where you convert, you smelt and you melt all the iron, so you make that iron you needed for the future. However, replacing the current fossil fuel by hydrogen it gives you a cleaner fuel that you use to burn, and then with that qualify also the steel as a green hydrogen.
Steel is one sector, but it's big money for big people.
So, and actually it's become more attractive now because of from 2024, all the car manufacturing, this is a new regulation from EU, all the car manufactured post 2024 have to be manufactured through green technology. Green technology is the less of fossil fuel.
Okay. How can SMEs and entrepreneurs and inventors find a way to get into this? What are your words to people here in Oman so that we can be at the edge, the pioneers and trailblazers?
The value chain of hydrogen is so very, very vast, and you have to look for many areas. You start with the hydrogen production itself. It's become as a big difficult, but again, look into supplying solar panels, electrolyzer, even the methodology, the metals used, design those technologies are becoming very attractive. Actually,
transporting it?
Transporting is a bit regulated because of the required types of vessels we do.
Filling stations?
Filling station is also not for a small SME, but again, technological companies who are actually driving this business. But again, all the research for people who are actually doing research on the electrolyzers can be very good.
Hydrogen tutors, I can see the electrolyzers, chemical teachers,
yep. Yes,
chemistry teachers moving on to hydrogen.
Well, it's a big economy. Look into the project actually already announced in Oman. If you can capture a smaller percentage for that in Oman, then definitely there is a lot of value chain that we can get to it.
Okay. On the word value chain, you've offered a lot of value over here. I'm sure people have to rewind this episode to get every deep, impactful word that you mentioned. So I'm going to end with a few questions, with one question over right now. It's the year 2050. How well do you think you have done so far?
Well, able to change from current fossil fuel and convincing people to go to a greener, cleaner fuel This will pay off in 2050, okay? Because that will help to decarbonize the world, to make world even with a less CO2 emission. That will do. We want to make the world is a better for our, at that time maybe grandchildren.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't contribute now, don't start act now, then we will not have a cleaner or greener future in the future.
So 2050, cleaner, greener, less carbon happening right now. Our question right now, which hopefully we answered, is hydrogen hope or hype? This is the hydrogen story in support of the Green Hydrogen Summit on December the 5th and 7th at the OCCCI. My guest has been Mr. Essam Sheibany, the VP of Sustainability at ASYAD. My name is Fahim Al-Ma'wali. Till the next hydrogen story. See you then.